Hey. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We are following up basically on some of our prior episodes of being a resident leader. And I would um, state, or I believe that being a resident leader is kind of on the continuum of the highly relational side of a business. But today we're going to talk about how you approach your real estate business, your entrepreneurial business. Um, it's generally one of two ways. It's a transactional approach or it's a relational approach. These are, kind of strategies, not tactics, and there's all kinds of nuances about that. But just kind of want to talk with Dr. Hall today about what it looks like to be on one side versus the other. I'll be very clear and blunt about my recommendation and preference in that, but we'll try to be fair about pros and cons on each side. So with that, we'll introduce Dr. Hall. He is a business psychologist, an executive coach, a multi-time author and public speaker, and really gets to the meat of how it is we, in practice, implement the things that we talk about with him on these episodes during our coaching sessions, during our mentoring sessions. So with that, we'll bring him on. How you doing today, Dr. Hall?
I'm doing quite well. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. I'm interested in this one because it's a little bit different approach to what we've talked about, but I think to create a mindset or an awareness of a mindset that you need to have and how you go about your business. And I think there's really the only two kind of approaches to that, the transactional, the relational, and then what it means to kind of be in the middle. But anyway, just a different perspective today. So I'm curious about your insight on that.
Yeah, love it.
Cool. Well, let me do a couple of real small housekeeping items here. For those of you that I haven't met, my name is Jerod Lee. I'm the associate broker and team lead here at My Home Connection, also known as MHC Realty. Our sponsor for today is the Perfect Real Estate Business. We are working to reinvent real estate, in large part due to today's topic. We see things very much heading in the transactional side of things, and there are reasons why you would want to do that and reasons why you wouldn't. But in our coaching practices, in our training practices and whatnot, we'll definitely coach to how it is to be a relational agent or lender. And then, of course, we bring a lot of other things to the table, some requirements of running a business in real estate, and then some new things, business model ideas that you should definitely be implementing to stay healthy and have a long-term business. So with that, I guess, would you agree, Dr. Hall, with my idea that the resident leadership side of things, of which we've talked about in the last two episodes for different reasons,
Sure.
I would say is kind of, I can't think of anything more important that you could do for a client than being that resident leader, because it is a hyper emotional experience, or can be, right, depending on the issues that arise, the feelings, the heightened feelings that you have about it. Anyway, I don't know. It seems like a pretty important topic to be aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, you're talking about a high trust, high risk transaction. And when you have that, it's important that the person, in terms of resident, able to accurately read the other person's emotions, able to manage the other person's thoughts and emotions. Those are important skills to have in a high stakes, any sort of high stakes transaction or any sort of high stakes relationship.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll move on to transactional, but just for the audience that hasn't seen the prior episodes on being a resident leader, I would go back to those. But Dr. Hall just basically hit the essence is, treat the transaction as it is. It's a high stakes, emotional, experience that most folks won't have more, maybe more than a handful of times in their life. So that'll be a consideration that you'll kind of remove from the equation in a transactional approach to business. So transactional, just as it sounds, it's a transaction. I'm just going to help you buy or sell our house, and we're moving on past that. Not much more to it.
Mhm.
Um,
And you can do that if a couple things are if a couple things are um, equal. So if the person who's hiring you needs an arm's length from the transaction, but has the same amount or nearly the same amount of expertise as you do, then it can be a transaction. If they don't, if there's a degree of difference in the customer or the client's expertise and your expertise, then they're going to want something more than just a transaction. But if this is a person who knows a lot about, in this case, in real estate, if they know just as much as you, then but they want an arm's length relationship between the transaction, then yeah, it's a pretty low drag transaction because everybody knows everything that's going to happen. It's when people are uncertain and don't know, that's when anxiety and fear comes into play, and that's when they need someone to hold their hand, and it ceases to be a transaction.
yeah, I've actually got I guess now a friend, but former client that I'm working with. He was uh, previously a licensed agent in a different state. He's bought from me in my state. He
Mm-hmm.
was my client, and now he's going to buy other ones. And he was a licensed agent for a long time, super experienced. And he said, "Hey, I'm just going to kind of go out there and do my thing because I like to do my thing, but I'm going to come to you and." Kind of the tail end of this and help you, will you help me just dot some I's and cross some T's? And I'm like, yeah, glad to help. So,
Yeah,
works well
very
for,
very low friction in that transaction, and
yeah.
so that makes sense. I think another reason that you can have transactional relationships that make sense is if the economic cost of a mistake and the overall economic cost is low. And so if these are first time home buyers in the case of real estate, or people for whom this is their quote forever home, then yeah, they're going to want something more than that. But if you have a seasoned investor buyer, someone who has buckets of money and they're just looking to add to their portfolio, then transactions make a lot of sense because relatively speaking, buying say a $250,000 house is not that big a deal in the grand scheme of their portfolio. If $250,000 house is every penny they have to get the down payment and they're stretching, well then it's a real different thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And really, I agree with everything you're saying. So there are reasons why a transactional, relationship could and should work. But mainly it's the shift in our industry of where we if we're honest, there's a lot of lead purchase opportunities in our business. Somebody's always out there telling you that I'll acquire these leads for you in some way, shape, or form. And if you look into it, there's some varying degree of quantity, and I'm telling you this level of detail for a reason, that you're not going to have to go out and go to network events. You're not going to have to spend time with your sphere of influence. You're not going to have to, go door knocking. You're not going to have to do open houses or whatever the thing is you don't want to do. You're trading your time for money. I'm going to give X amount of dollars to this lead gen company here, and they're going to give me contact information, and I'm going to go work with them. So that approach and shift in how we work with our clients, I think, has created a very in combination of how some agents keep track of whether they're productive and successful or not, right? What's my gross commissionable income, my GCI, or how many units do I help people buy and sell in a year? If that's your metric, between the client's approach to the industry and how I gauge my success, I think creates for a transactional minded agent, which says insert client here and exit client here shortly after, right? Because
Yeah,
the quicker I do that, the more transactions I do.
yeah,
So I put kind of the immediate results are the aforementioned efforts that I just described take time, right? You've got to go do that stuff.
Hmm.
But if you want transaction, you just go buy them. It's not that you can't convert a lead into a relational um, transaction or relationship. I would argue you should, no matter how you got the client. But I'm just saying, as things have changed, I think a lot of people just buy more leads and crunch more numbers, right? More units, more GCI. So that's where that.
Yeah. There are two pieces of this. One, I want to talk about deal velocity or product velocity, and then the second is, are these the right kind of clients? So there's one model of business which is an efficiency model, and transactional a transactional approach works quite well for that. And the best example for the efficiency model is Walmart.
Mhm.
No one expects to go into Walmart and have the person in the blue vest be an expert on the television you're going to buy. They're not going to know.
Right.
If you ask them in the automotive department, "Hey, do you know anything about this jack?" I have no idea, but it's cheaper here. And the thing that Walmart does so well is they have what's called product velocity, which
Mm.
is the stuff in their stores doesn't stay on the shelf for very long.
Hmm.
So people go to Walmart to buy toilet paper that's like 10 cents cheaper than someplace else.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about toilet paper at Walmart is it's gone pretty much every day. They
Yeah.
restock every day. Well, that's a lot of velocity. And so if they only make, 50 cents on a package of toilet paper, but they're replenishing it 1,000 times a day, well, that
Yeah.
kind of adds up.
Yeah.
And so if you want deal velocity, which is if you want to do 365 deals in a year, okay, great. That's one way to do it. But you have to be very good at efficiency of managing all of the things that are going to happen in a deal. And selling houses is, I'm not saying selling, toilet paper is easy, but I am saying that selling a house has more complexity than a package of toilet paper. And
Yeah.
so if you want to get 365 product cycles or deal cycles per year, yeah, you have to be very efficient. Your margins are going to be very, very small, but you're going to do a lot of them. If you're good at that repeated activity, that paperwork, and if that's what you love, it's like, well, I can't wait to fill out another paper. Then great. A transactional approach is great for you. But it takes me to the second point, which is, are those the right kinds of customers for you?
Hmm.
And if they're getting customers or clients from some sort of lead gen, are those the right people for you? Now, I'm going to go into the Wayback Machine. I'm going to go way long ago.
Hmm.
Back when people had telephone books, and people don't know what those are anymore, but there was a thing called the Yellow Pages. And in the Yellow Pages, you could go under a product category and your name would be in that service or product category. And people would try to sell me Yellow Pages ads. And I said, I want a Yellow Pages ad. And they go, but you'll get more clients. So I said, anyone who finds me in the Yellow Pages is not a good client for me.
Right.
And so I didn't want the kind of client that would come through that sort of quote lead gen. That's
Yeah.
not that those weren't my clients. Was it good that people knew I existed? Yes. But did I want to attract the attention of people who used that low level of understanding of what I was providing? Now, as a realtor, are these clients, these lead gen people, are they really the kind of people who are going to be a quality client for you? So I think you need to ask, okay, am I willing to deal with the kind of people that you find at the Department of Motor Vehicles? I mean, is that my best client? And if it is, you'll take all comers. Okay, great.
Yeah.
But if you walk into the Department of Motor Vehicles and you go, a lot of these people are just not my people, then no, you don't want lead gen. That's not right for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, a couple of things occurred to me as you were talking there. One of them is the analogy of Walmart. If you're going to buy a TV or some part for your car, the people that they hire there, if they were experts, they couldn't afford to sell the product at the price they're selling it because they'd have to pay the employees the knowledgeable employee what they're worth. So you
Right.
don't go there for that advice. You assume, hey, you know what you're doing. Kind of back to your, mentioning of work with a client that already knows how to buy and sell homes. They just need you to do some minor things.
Yep.
But I would argue in our business, even if you can help do that stuff, and let's say you're doing 365 units, even if you know the information and you're transactional based and trying to turn numbers, you don't have the time to sit there and explain, even if you know them, all the things. So this is the niche that you've decided to put yourself in to meet the numbers. And my guess is you're doing that at some kind of discounted commission in order to get these clients. You're
Sure.
not able to charge full boat because they're like, why would I pay you when you're not contributing anything other than pushing paperwork around or
Right. Right.
whatever. So it's a different dynamic. But I guess I just wanted to illuminate the fact that there can be this bent, if you're not aware of what kind of business you want to run, to fall into the transactional, which I think is applicable to other industries, but is deeply flawed in ours, is my
Yep.
estimation. And here's
Yep.
some of the reasons why. What it begets is I buy all these leads and they're going to commit to X amount of leads a week or a month or whatever.
Hmm.
And you don't know the quality of leads until you know. So now you get all these phone numbers and emails and you get to sift through this thing. So you've paid money for it and now you're paying time to cultivate it,
Right.
to try to turn it into business. So now you're populating your CRM with contacts that, to your point, they don't know what you do. They don't know what your value add is, why they would use you, and you're going to have to educate them on all of this.
Hmm.
I shouldn't say all, but a lot.
A lot of it. Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if they knew, they would take the time to go find a really good agent that can do a really good job for them.
Right. But again, most people are pretty ignorant. They don't know what they don't know. And back to the Dunning-Kruger effect, which I think we've talked about before. But the Dunning-Kruger effect is when amateurs look at experts and experts make it look easy, amateurs go, well, how hard could it be? I could do that.
Right.
And until they try, and then it's a lot more complicated. So the do-it-yourselfer doesn't realize that they're in over their head until it's too late.
Yeah.
And so you're going to probably get some of those people if yours is a transactional model.
Yeah. Yeah. So so the benefit is, hey, if I throw some money at it, I can get some contact and hopefully a client sooner than later because you're not developing the relationship and educating and informing and doing all the things. So your runway can be shorter. But I would argue, well, I wouldn't even argue that the cost of customer or client acquisition is going to be very expensive relative to what I just described in education and information, or having previously treated a client really well. So now you have a referral. That stuff doesn't cost much. It might take time, but it's, per dollar is pretty inexpensive. So I would say you're paying for all these lead gen systems, and the cost structures are forever changing, right? If a company has success doing it, they're increasing the price on you or looking for other people to pay more. So it might work for a bit, but then you can't afford it. So now you're transitioning off,
Mm-hmm.
or you bought into a system and realized it isn't in anything what they sold you it would be. So how many trial and errors do you have to go through lead gen systems before it actually begins to work? So anyway, I appreciate you saying there's reasons why you would do this, but I've done not both transactional relations. It's always been relational, but I've done lead gen and then repeat and referral business.
Mm-hmm.
So my, I guess, ultimate argument is if you think you might want a transactional business, you should really dig into it and check your sanity.
Yeah, well, if that's the kind of thing you like to do, I mean, you and I live in Idaho, and we have a long history of mining for gold, and there are people who will search out a spot where they think there's a lot of gold, and then they'll go dig, and then there are other people who go down by the river, and they'll sift through, they're panning for gold. They'll
Mm-hmm.
sift through hours and hours of sand in order to get a few flecks of gold. Those are two very different approaches
I love that. Yeah.
uh, to gaining wealth. If you're the kind of person who likes to pan for gold, and there are people who do that,
Mm-hmm.
rock on.
Yeah.
Sift through all that stuff if that's what you like to do.
Yeah.
That's not my jam, and it's not your jam either.
Yeah, and probably to a hyper extreme. I mean, I got to appreciate that some people just might pick this, right? They want a good work-life balance, so they don't want all these. I don't know. I shouldn't say it like that, but these
They
heavy
want different
relationships.
things than you want,
Thank you.
and it you have to be really, really good at efficiency if you want this kind of business to grow and thrive.
Yeah.
And very few people are really, really good at efficiency.
Yeah. Yep. I love it. I love it. Yeah. So that's the insight into the transactional business. I don't want to belabor that anymore than we have, but there's upside and downside to the relational, right? We've already talked about your runway's longer. It's going to take you longer to build the business. The outgoing monetary costs, it's more trade and time and investment in relationship than monetary outlay. Type of clients, right? If you worked with a client and they referred you business, those former clients are probably much like the clients that they're referring you business.
Yeah.
And then I think it's just long term, it becomes more stable, meaning that you now have clients that are speaking on your behalf. This is your now new marketing arm. This is your inbound traffic, your inbound business, because you've is it maybe goodwill that you've put into the community, that you've invested in education and information and
Sure.
time and effort, and now people are calling you based upon that investment. So I think it's ultimately a healthier, more stable business because you've got people speaking positively for you, and then just ultimately kind of the rewarding side of it all. This I don't know. And maybe to your point, some people want that unit business.
Yeah.
That doesn't seem rewarding to me, but maybe it's rewarding to them.
And I think, and those who try it and get burned out pretty quick, they realize, oh, I thought it was, but it's not. And they move on. It's the first is a very mechanistic, machine oriented. It's the factory approach.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to pump out as many widgets as possible for the lowest unit cost as possible, and that's how we make our money. Well, you have to have an incredibly efficient machine. But if you're talking about relationships in this network or this interconnected web of relationships that over time become stronger and stronger, and people begin to make referrals and first name referrals, that it's a more robust system
Mm-hmm.
that is able to withstand difficulty. And so you don't need as many people in your network. So if you have an efficiency model, you need lots and lots of names.
Mm-hmm.
But there are many businesses that if you have 1,000 fans of you, you can make enough money to have a very good life for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
But
it takes,
but it's a matter of cultivating those 1,000 fans.
Yeah, it takes
you don't
effort.
need everybody. You need 1,000.
Right. Right. And the effort that it takes to build those 1,000 fans that are going to beget a healthy business, won't happen overnight. There's a lot of investment, and we've talked about tools and skills that you need to have to ultimately, let me put it this way. I think, 1,000's probably a good number. I kind of like that because it's round, and it's enough that it's obvious that with that many, you're likely going to have enough business to just kind of sustain without putting any ads out,
Yeah.
without doing any marketing. But I would argue the tools that we're talking about, being a resonant leader, servant's heart, providing education, value, could the raving fans idea, right? Could you do it with half of that? Could you have 500
Yeah.
clients that you just blew their doors off to the point where they're excited to share your name? Not they'll share it if they have to, on the 1,000 because they got pressed on it, but on the other 500 or let's say even 250, they're excited to share because they had a great experience and they're excited for you as the person being referred to have a great experience.
And I'm guessing here. This next thing, I'm just guessing. But if with a high value transaction like real estate, you may only need 100
Yeah.
raving fans
Raving
who
fans,
then will
yes.
tell you they're essentially your evangelists.
Yes.
Who are saying you have to get this person to work with you. And if you have even 100 evangelists, you're going to be fine, because each of them are going to tell 9 to 12 other people how wonderful you are, and that will fill your calendar.
Yeah. Yeah. If you have the ones that are kind of like, hey, you did a good enough job for me, but I'm not going to stick my neck out.
Right.
Because if they aren't treating people well these days, or you don't click or whatever, like I'm going to keep my mouth shut because, right, we're all been embarrassed by referrals in the past. And you're like,
Right.
oh,
And the most important thing that you as a professional want is not to embarrass someone who has recommended you. I mean,
yeah.
it's, when I'm invited to speak anywhere, my number one goal is do not embarrass the person who invited you, because they stuck their neck out. They're taking a risk.
Yeah.
And so my goal is to make them look like a hero.
Yeah.
And so I think that's every professional's job, is whoever refers you, you want to make them look like a hero.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there was one other thing that I want to talk about, but as you were sharing kind of the reasons for transactional versus relational, I don't know quite what to think at this point. So I'm curious about your insight or thoughts. But and I don't think I coined the phrase emotional currency, but I've been using it for a long time. That kind of just summarizes why I do what I do. Yes, I need to keep a roof over my head and food in my refrigerator and blah, blah, blah. But really, something about that emotional currency, the hug at the closing table, the thank you card, the whatever, that just means way more to me. And I guess, obviously, if you decide to go the transactional route as a agent or lender, you're not in pursuit of that. What's your thoughts on what drives people? And I guess I'm kind of being mean in saying that transactional people are cold, and that's not what I'm meaning to do, but I'm just trying to get my head around why
They're just better at things you're not good at.
like the efficiency.
Yeah. And you're better at things that they're not good at.
Okay,
If they don't like people, if they like looking at paperwork, and if they like looking at numbers, in my business, we talk about what kind of problems do you like to solve? Do you like to solve thing problems, like fixing things?
Yeah.
Do you like solving idea problems?
Okay.
Like, do you like to think about how many, what's the way that a quark, when it loses its energy, goes down the quantum stair step?
Yeah.
That's an idea problem. Okay, so it's things, ideas, people. Do you like to solve people problems, or do you like to solve data problems? Okay, how do I filter this data so it's more efficient? Well, you're probably a people person. But if you like to solve data problems,
That would drive me nuts.
pardon me,
Sitting there monitoring numbers and statistics and
yeah, that's not your jam.
Right.
But efficiency people, that's their jam.
yeah.
Don't bother me with the people part. Let's just make this more efficient. And so in real estate, many of the people who are involved are people. They like to solve people problems.
Yeah.
But there's a subset that don't.
Yeah.
Who like to solve data problems, and they will be great efficiency models. But if you look at your audience, Jerod, they're people a lot like you, and economic, what do you call it, or emotional currency.
Yeah.
Another name for it is social capital. That's important, And those relationships deal on that emotional currency.
Mm-hmm.
That if I give to you emotionally, there's a law of reciprocity that you give back. And it's that web of relationships that's made human beings successful.
Mm-hmm.
Human beings are pack animals, and we do not thrive on our own. So human beings are built to want to be with each other and to engage in that social exchange, because that's how we gain. It's how we gain security. It's also how we gain economic viability. I mean, that's how
Mm-hmm.
we survive.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I like where you're going with that because it speaks to, you know, you want to work with your people, right? If I have a high D, so in our business we spend a lot of time talking about a disc profile. You
Yeah.
know, D is one, I, S, and C, and just to cut to the chase, D is a very direct, driven. They don't
Mm-hmm.
like long-winded conversations. They don't want somebody to sit there and chew up their time, waste their time. Anyway, I think where I'm going with that is for me to work with a high D personality, I have to like chop up my responses by like a half or a quarter because I'll drive
Mm-hmm.
them nuts. If I talk too much because they just want the answer and they want to move on. And where I'm
Mm-hmm.
going with that, I guess, is if you're a transactional agent, a D is going to love you because
As will a C.
oh yes, okay,
Yeah,
yep,
D's and C's will love you. I's and S's, they want the relationship. That's just the way that quadrant plays out.
yeah, yeah. So figure out how you want to approach your business and how you want to attract your tribe. The
Yeah.
people that you're going to click with that likes the long-winded responses because they're sensing how much you care, and they're just information hounds. They don't want to know the answer. They want to know the why. I'm a big why guy. I want to know the why to the answer, not just the answer.
Mm-hmm.
So figure out how you're going to approach your business and how you're going to acquire your clients. I prefer the relational side of things because the people that I've worked with that appreciate what I do are going to send more people like them my way.
That's right. And if they have a good experience, even if they're a D, even if they're a C, if they have a good experience, they're going to refer their friends to you. It requires managing them a little bit differently. Uh, um, but even D's and C's will refer if they've had a good experience.
Mm-hmm.
Because as logical as everyone tends to think they are, most of our decisions are made based on how we feel.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, one of the big things that I've learned over the years, and this is borne out with some of the research, is no matter how logical you think you are, emotion is probably the fuel that's driving that decision.
Yeah, yeah, which is interesting because it kind of gets a bad rap, right? Apply logic, but then ultimately you just can't get away from some emotion because, especially buying a house, or selling a
Yeah.
house, it's
I, I mean, the analogy I use is, if you're on a train, the engine needs fire in the steam engine to go. That it needs that fuel, and emotion is the fuel, the fire that makes the steam engine go. But you
gotcha.
always want to have an engineer with a regulator on it so that the fire doesn't get too hot, you don't blow up the engine.
Right, love it.
So emotions make it go, but you want a regulator. That's the thinking. So the thinking essentially keeps it within limits so that it can be productive. And they both work together. If you got all limits and no fire, you got no train, you got no motion.
Yeah,
But if you got all fire and no regulator, then something's going to blow
you
up.
blow up the
So
train and
you need them both.
yeah, love it, love it. Well, very cool. Well, this has been a great topic. I was kind of unsure as to how it would go and how it would flow, but I love the things that we've touched on. I hope the audience, the listeners, the watchers are getting a better feel for what type of long-term business excites them. Imagine as we were touching on them, one resonated and one didn't. Like
Yeah.
we talk about one and you're like, wow, that makes a lot of sense for me, how I think, what I want to build. And the other made no sense at all. and vice versa. So my take is, or my recommendation is, just put a little more thought into it and own one of those. If you
Yeah.
sit in the middle, you're going to get frustrated, right? Like, I really feel like I should be taking good care of these people and giving them the extra time that they need because I can sense they need extra time, but I'm trying to build a transactional business and do a lot of units.
You can't do them both.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So kind of pick one and get really good at it and make sure you're working with the clients that makes sense for them. Don't bring in a highly relational person and shove them through a transactional system and frustrate them, because that's not going to help either one of you.
And vice versa.
Yeah.
Don't encourage a person who just wants to just make the donuts, just churn stuff out. They don't want to talk about all these squishy feelings and how people feel. And
Right. Yeah. I just
okay,
want to buy a
great.
house.
It's about the house, yeah. And so
And
find
then
different clients.
and then I'm going to go do something different.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Well, love it. Love it. Well, let's land the plane by start to land the plane by letting folks know how to get a hold of you and where your resources are.
yeah. Probably the best way you can get in touch with me is at my website, drrogerhall.com, drrogerhall.com. On it, you can find links to my books. I've got 3 books written: Expedition, DIY Brain, and Staying Happy, Being Productive. Got another one in the works called DIY Leader Brain. You can also find my online courses. One's called Freak Out, and you can take a quiz that'll take you to the Freak Out course. And another one that should be up there at some point in the future is Expedition, which is based on the Expedition book. So I'm on all the major social media platforms, and if you'd like to listen to my podcast, you can get that on almost every podcast platform. And if you actually want to watch me, you can watch me on YouTube.
Excellent, excellent. And for those of you, Expedition, we are looking at some dates in the future to start that course. We've had really good success of like 2 chapters a week for the better part of 2 months. So we're going to look to do that again, probably at the beginning of the year. So for those of you that would be interested in that, the book's on Amazon along with his Dr. Hall's other books, and we'll be walking through that. So please feel free to reach out and let us know how we can help with your business. But other than that, Dr. Hall, thanks for coming on today and sharing your words of wisdom with us.
As always, Jerod, thank you for having me. I'm very grateful.
Absolutely. All right. Other than that, we'll wish everybody a blessed one. Take care.
Bye-bye.